Welcome to Star Explorer, a family game for 1 to 4 players that lets you reach for the stars. In this video, we explain briefly how to prepare the game, how to play the game, and of course how your final score is calculated, because only the player who scores the most points in the end is crowned the greatest Star Explorer. Preparation. Each player receives a player board, a star disk, and a pen. Slide the star disk into the player board, making sure that the arrow at the top of the player board points to round 1 of the star disk. Separate the constellation tiles by their values and shuffle each stack separately. Deal each player 1 face-down constellation of the values 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Deal each player 2 face-down constellations of the value 7. Place your face-down constellations next to your player board in a stack. You may look at the backs of the tiles in your stack, but you are not allowed to look at the front sides. Shuffle the double-sided starting tiles. Each player receives a random one of these tiles and chooses one of the 2 sides, which is then placed face up next to their own player board. The player who last saw a shooting star gets the first player marker. You can put any unused material back in the box. Gameplay. In Star Explorer, you go through a total of 6 rounds, all of which consist of the following 4 steps. Select constellation size, mark constellations, score points, and end of the round. Select constellation size. If you have the first player marker, choose a constellation size from your stack and clearly say the number on the back out loud for everyone. Everyone else now also takes the tile of this size from their own stack. If constellation size 7 is chosen for the first time, you can each choose one of your 2 tiles based on their backside. If someone else chooses 7 in a later round, you no longer have a choice and take the remaining constellation of that size. Everyone now simultaneously reveals the selected tiles and places them under the tile from the previous round or the starting tile in the first round. Mark constellations. This step is done simultaneously. Look at the pattern of the constellation on your current constellation tile and transfer it to the currently visible part of your star disk. Be careful, the star disk may not be moved or taken out of the player board. The following rules for drawing constellations must be followed. A constellation is made up of stars connected with lines. Only stars that are fully visible can be used to create constellations. Players can decide to skip a fragment of the constellation and not mark it on the map. It is not allowed to divide one constellation into several smaller ones. Each star may only be part of one constellation only. The lines connecting stars and constellations must not intersect. Constellations can be rotated freely but must not be mirrored. The Polaris in the middle of the star disk must not be used for constellations. Fading stars. Sometimes, due to lack of space, you may not be able or willing to draw certain stars of a constellation. These left-out stars are called fading stars. For each star that you do not draw, cross out one of the 3-point stars on the player board. Score points. After the constellations have been drawn, you receive points for the following criteria, which you can write down in the circles next to the current round number on the rim of the star disk. For each star of the type shown on the current constellation tile, you get the points indicated on the same tile. For each star of the type shown on the previous constellation tile, you get the points indicated on that tile. For each line that connects a star of the type on the current tile with a star of a type on the previous tile, you get points equal to the combined value of both tiles. Enter the total of points scored in this round on the bottom part of your board, in the space marked with the number of the current round. End of the round. After everyone has scored their points for the current round, perform the following steps. Rotate your star disk in the direction of the arrow until you reach the next round marker. Flip your current constellation tile to its reverse side and place it on the stack of previously used tiles or on the starting tile. Pass the first player marker to the player who has scored the fewest points in the current round. In case of a tie, pass the marker to the first of the tied players in clockwise direction. After performing these steps, start the next round with step 1, select constellation size. End of the game and final scoring. The game ends after round 6. Return your leftover 7th constellation tile to the box and score the following final points. Fading stars. Each 3-point star that you have not crossed off is worth 3 points. Constellations. Add up the points you scored for your constellations in the 6 game rounds. Bonus points. Remove the star disk from your player board. You gain 1 point for each central star you used for your constellations. You gain 2 points for each connecting line of your constellations that crosses the white axis of your star disk. You gain 3 points for each star in the outer rim you used for your constellations. Add up and compare your final scores. The person with the highest total score wins the game and is the best star explorer. In case of a tie, the player who used fewer fading stars wins. If there is still a tie, all tied players share the victory. And that's all you need to know to play Star Explorer. Just a quick note regarding the pens. If the pens have not been used for a long time, you can slightly moisten the tip of the pen to be able to write again. Your markings can be wiped clean with a cap or with a damp cloth without leaving any residue. It's best to put the cap back on immediately after using the pens.